On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, the great fuel debate continues.
They've added a new feature, which is a fuel consumption system.
Would you upgrade for GTA 6?
More than 2 in 5 gamers would upgrade their consoles for GTA 6.
And is the industry avoiding the release window?
Would you, as a high-ranking Imperial officer, choose to stand in front of Darth Vader?
It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock. Hello friends and welcome to episode 34 of GTA 6 o'clock. Some interesting topics to talk about this week, and of course we are another week closer to the next Take-Two investor call, which is set for August the 8th, which could signify some new content or a small piece of info. I'm your host JJ, and joining me to put some meat on the horse this week is Dan Dawkins.
Hello, I must say that was one of the, I thought, one of the growliest intros yet, and it might be because unbeknownst to anyone listening, we've suffered a technical flump this week, so we're recording in a new location. So if the episode sounds different, that's why. But yes. I will say, in real life, that was a growl that deserves an edge 8 out of 10.
Wow. Okay, Great. Thank you very much. Yes, quite a lot of technical things going on this week. We've had to change rooms. We're recording it with different microphones. We're all discombobulated. So if it sounds a little bit different, we apologize. We will get back to where we were in the next few episodes. But let's carry on with this week for now, Dan. And I wanted to quickly touch on a quick note from last week, which was from Jude305 on the topic of the GTA movie and the documentary that we were speculating about and talking about. Jade said, the Making of Grand Theft Auto 6 documentary after the game is released is going to be fascinating. Truly learning about the behind-the-scenes stuff and how the game changed mid-development will be massively insightful, which is an interesting thing to talk about, which gives us the jumping-off point to say, do you think, Dan, that they're even going to do something like this, given what we know about the studio? These kind of behind-the-scenes things are obviously super popular. More and more big game franchises are doing them. You know, The Last of Us did it, God of War did it, Cyberpunk sort of did it. So it is a big new thing in the world since the release of GTA 5. But knowing Rockstar, do you think we're going to get a behind-the-scenes making of for GTA 6?
There's a long answer, but I'll start with I think the correct answer is no.
Correct.
Now, the reason it's no is myriad, and there's actually quite a lot of historical precedents and facts to add here. I guess the thing I'll say top line with this is it is quite clear that GTA 6 has been an incredibly lengthy development, even on the most boring technical production and physical level. Cataloguing 11 to 13 years of dev work into a making of is no small task. People have done similar. I'm sure it could be done, but it's no small task. It is also clear to a certain extent that this has not been an easy development, whether it's been the leaks, the major staff departures, a political, cultural upheaval within the studio, the extent to which the world's most notoriously secretive development company wants to lift the lid on what's been the most tumultuous period in its history is open to question. And I think it's exceedingly unlikely, because I think there's things they would literally not want to share.
Yeah.
Partly because it might reflect badly on some people. And I guess partly because Rockstar's motto has always been, let the games speak for themselves. They've always been very clear about that. Like, they used to very, very rarely allow you access to developers through interviews. That only was a thing that changed around about the time of GTA Online, which is going back to like 2013, 2012. Up until then, you'd get one interview a year in controlled conditions. So a full access behind the scenes documentary just feels like a leap. But there's actually more to add to this. But anything more from your side? Do you just disagree with that thesis?
I mean, I don't think we're going to get a full-blown documentary, no. I guess the only sort of lifeline that it might have is if that thing was being internally produced, they would have full control over what did and didn't go into that thing.
Yes.
And could maybe make it look like, there were a couple of hiccups, but generally everyone's happy and it was all fine.
Yeah.
whether that will happen or not, like I agree, like filming or documenting all of that stuff over what has now been, what will be almost 10 years of development time feels unfeasible. And unless they were doing it in-house, some of that stuff is coming out over the, just given the nature of the project, anyone working on that, I mean, they'll be all covered by NDAs, but you can see someone being like, hey, we're making a behind the scenes thing. And did you know what happened this week? And then that being posted on a forum and it being rumored and speculated on. So I don't know. We might get some retrospective style things after the fact of going like, oh, let's talk about how it went. You might get a few more tidbits out of those kind of things, but I would be very surprised if we got a 90-minute or feature-length documentary about the making of 6.
Now, here's the interesting context. Now, going back to April 2024, there was a Q&A hosted on Streamly with the GTA 5 actors, Sean Fontano, Ned Luke, and Stephen Ogg. And Ned Luke had said that there was a behind-the-scenes camera running, quote, the whole time. And Ogg said that behind closed doors, a string of stupid challenges took place while the team wasn't working. Soon after, it says, Luke adds, what's nuts to me is that the behind-the-scene camera were going the whole time and they never did anything with it. That stuff is gold. And he says, I think at one point we did discuss how cool it would be to do the making of, says Ogg. Now, clearly, what's amazing about this is they clearly took the footage. And, 10, 12 years on, clearly aren't planning to do anything with it because nothing's emerged unless they really want to put daylight between that footage or not. Now, why it hasn't emerged, who knows? But I can potentially shine a light on Rockstar's thinking to an extent because of a project like we were planning at our company. We also run the Golden Joystick Awards. And the Golden Joystick Awards, once upon a time, started producing a series of anthology-style books called Golden Joystick Presents. So we did launch one of these books going back to, it was around about 2013, 2014. We did one called Golden Joystick Presents Hideo Kojima. And it was like a collected anthology of Kojima's works. We commissioned loads of really knowledgeable Metal Gear Solid writers to do Kojima profiles. I thought it was a good book. And then it made sense that because having been involved with GTA 5 O'Clock and knowing so much about Rockstar, our intention was to do Golden Joystick Presents Grand Theft Auto. And I had written a précis for what that would be, including articles. We'd pitched it internally and we pitched it to Rockstar. And I was laughing because I was going through my emails and Rockstar cleverly never put down in writing what they said about it. But, very long story short and naming no names, we were told it might be best not to proceed with this project, or it wouldn't be with Rockstar's blessing, because Rockstar had been planning a anthology book series of their own. And I might be misremembering, but at the time, there was talk of it being in research for 15 years and being almost like Beyond the War and Peace or like a Dostoevsky style mega epic of 10,000, 100,000 words, whatever. It's like a crazy amount of words. But what's also clear is it never happened.
No.
And so while Rockstar were thinking about doing this book series to the point where they went, well, you better not do one because we might. And they haven't. Yeah. Now, whether the documentary thing is the same, they're covering their bases just in case, they haven't pressed the trigger on it. So, am I holding out much hope for a GTA 6 documentary? Not really.
No, fair enough. Well, good insight there. And we should say that Golden Joystick book never came out either.
No, well, exactly.
Neither of the things exist.
It is, but the précis for it exists in my inbox.
Yeah.
So the GTA book you never read, I can exclusively sell the précis for it for free.
And if you would like to read the Golden Joystick Award Presents Hideo Kojima, that book does exist.
It does exist. I don't know if you can buy it anymore, but there might be copies available
on eBay.
On the black market. Yes. But yeah, there was a hardback version, this ultra limited edition. I think there was like 100 of them printed. If you've got one of those, and I saw one, it's probably worth checking what they're worth. Maybe nothing, but it is worth checking.
Okay, let's move on to one of today's topics, and it is the great fuel debate. Yes, Dan, it is back. I know everyone is excited about this. Just in case you have missed it in the last few episodes, I am pretty pro refueling of cars in GTA 6 in some form. Dan is more against it, we will say. But there's been some news this week that's come via 5M, and then Rockstar Intel have reported it, along as many other people. The team behind 5M, who are CFX.RE, have released a new blog post as part of their monthly Community Pulse series. Now, as we know, 5M were acquired by Rockstar way back, almost maybe a year ago now. They've continued to develop 5M and RedM, but the important thing that's happened in this update is they've added a new feature, which is a fuel consumption system. They say we've added a brand new feature to 5M for you to utilize fuel consumption. By default, vehicles in GTA 5 and 5M do not consume fuel. However, our new natives, such as Set Fuel Consumption State 57 and Set Fuel Consumption Rate Multiplier 29, you can now enable fuel consumption and customize it to fit your needs. This works by turning on a whole load of calculated formulas, which is actually basically makes the calculations almost comparable to how it works in the real world. Fuel is not consumed when the engine is turned off. By default, 65-litre gas tank with an average fuel consumption can stay idle for 16.67 hours or run with a max RPM of around 2.5 hours. They have added that gas stations aren't functional in this new update, but you can implement it using your own provided natives. I think the interesting thing here is that, as we've said, 5M are now owned by Rockstar. They have been brought in to develop some of the systems, possibly all just related to the online role-playing servers and that kind of thing, but also possibly to implement some features that might end up making it to GTA 6. Is this a sign that they have been working on this fuel consumption thing for quite a long time? Now it is ready to test in this environment before it becomes into GTA 6 next year. Your thoughts, Dan?
Well, my thoughts on fuel consumption are well documented. But, and I will also pause to laugh at the fact that they've added fuel consumption, but not de facto petrol stations. So it's the worst of all worlds, where your fuel runs out, but it's really hard to fill up again. But I think this core point's really interesting, that by acquiring essentially the font of the modding community, Rockstar are able to experiment with mechanics that might or might not make it into the game at essentially no risk, because without knowing exactly the relationship, and I assume in reality they would plead independence, as might, a nation-state government from its football club, for example. In reality, I imagine there's a very active conversation, and they might say, we're thinking of doing this. What if you did this? Why wouldn't you do that? It's a brilliant way to test things that are a little bit, not a good idea, for example.
Or a
great idea, depending on your perspective. And to do it in a safe way. So they might go, yeah, people liked it, let's definitely go for it. Or, if they ask me, they might not like it. And I haven't tried it. Maybe I will like it. But it's a brilliant test bed mechanic that's totally safe. And I think maybe, it is a good idea to keep more eyes on this community and the sort of things that are going on there, especially post-acquisition.
What this does bring me to, actually, is an email that we got from Tristan, who said, I've been thinking about it. It would be a somewhat good idea for them to add a screen at the beginning for realistic and arcade-style gameplay. In realistic, you have to worry about your hunger and fuel, and in arcade, it's basically just GTA 5-style gameplay. Let the people that don't care about all of that stuff have their fun, which I think is an interesting point. Brings me to, could this be a sort of setting that you get at the beginning that's basically the easy or hard mode for GTA 6?
racing games have arcade mode and sim mode, which is, people who play sim mode are like, oh, those people playing arcade, they're losers. They can't even like get on the wheel differentials and make the brake balances work properly. Those people playing arcade are like, I just want to go racing.
Yeah.
Why not implement a feature like this in GTA 6 that has, you want it full sim, you want it half sim, maybe there's a slider where you pick how much sim do you want in your GTA 6?
I mean, I guess ultimately, why not? It doesn't hurt anyone as long as it's possible to create that level of sliding scale simulator within your game. I imagine that's a thing that's easier said done than implemented.
Oh yeah, it might hurt the developers quite a lot.
Like horrifically. So, to the extent to which it makes a difference, like I would always want the default, I guess, arcade experience to be the one that we're broadly used to, within those parameters. And then it's just, if they did go full sim, we joked about this on a previous podcast, but how extreme do you want it? Do you want to be shaking salt on your chips, for example, or putting rubbish in a bin? That's where, you think there's a lot of things about reality that I just do not need to see replicated. So, let's draw the line. And I've also, I've played a number of more hardcore sims, like driving games. I've tried simulators. For me, that was not fun.
I think we know where you sit on that.
Yeah, and I like a challenging game, I really do. But there's a point where you go, I suppose, not really, because I haven't hired a sports car recently. But you just think, why would I put myself through this? Different people think differently. I totally get it. It's quite an interesting idea. And again, maybe something that might begin life as a mod rather than it would be such a bold thing to go, you can play GTA like real life and your character gets tired. Or if he gets slightly shot, he instantly drops dead. That would be, it would just totally
that's
change
where the slider
everything.
comes into play, Doc. I don't want to drop dead when I get shot. I do want to refuel my car.
Okay, yeah, but you want to be able to take 6 bullets in the head, but heaven forbid that your fuel should last a long time.
You got it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. See,
I mean, do you think that for 6 that do they need a gameplay innovation? 5, I would say, one of the first games to do multiple lead characters. Back then, it was quite a new thing.
Yeah.
They definitely were one of the first that did sort of real-time character switching, which we see quite a lot, like Spider-Man does it now. There are lots of multiple lead characters. It's funny you mentioned the Gone joysticks earlier. Like for last year's award show, we had a big debate about, who are the leads in Baldur's Gate? And it turns out it's basically everyone.
Yeah.
So it's like, having a big ensemble cast is becoming more and more frequent now. Like even Alan Wake 2 had, motion capture guy and voiceover guy who are basically the same character and you can't really split them out. But to bring that back around, and maybe this sim thing is a thing, but do you think they even need to do anything that's, or GTA 6 is doing this brand new innovative thing, or is it enough just to have a new GTA?
I think they do and they will. There'll be some talking points of stuff where one of the things with GTA, we said this before in the podcast, one of the things with GTA is always, you won't believe what's in the new GTA. There's even this. And there's things now we take as absolutely given. But even when they introduced, you've got a mobile phone, that was like, what? A mobile phone, just like real life. That was a huge change. The character switching, huge change.
In-game internet, I suppose, was massive.
Yeah, and again, it was a bit more of a smoke and mirrors than it was a reality. You couldn't really go anywhere and do anything, but the illusion of it was fantastic. So I would expect at least 3 to 5 bullet points of things that you can't believe they're trying to do, that I suspect in reality aren't quite the sea change we expect them to be, but will certainly be positioned that way. There's an interesting piece. I saw, GTA 6 Twitter is always full of juicy, probably not true, made up stuff. But there was one where there was an ex-Rockstar dev who had claimed that he thought the leap between 5 and 6 would not be as great as people were expecting.
I saw this.
Yeah, because the technological leap between, this is true. We've seen this in all games. The jump from PS2 to PS3, PS3 to PS4, it's actually probably got less and less each generation as we've kind of maxed out. And I think a lot of my friends who were less into gaming have noticed this, where it doesn't feel like we've made the leap. You could make that case easily between PS4 and PS5. Fundamentally, for example, the God of War game we played on PS4 is the same as the PS5 one. Same with the Horizon Zero Dawn games. They look better and the graphics are an upgrade, but fundamentally the bones of it are the same. Now, whether GTA is going to plateau or whether it's just going to be a case of, my God, you've never seen volumetric fog or rain particles or whatever it is like it. But I think, Rockstar being Rockstar, they'll try to do something that appears more fundamental. I don't know what you think, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we have to remember, as I'm sure everybody does, that GTA 5 was developed for PS3.
yeah,
Like, it first came out on that. Obviously, it's been upgraded and iterated on over the past 10 or so years. But when they were first developing that game, they were making it work on a PlayStation 3. And now, I think, we can probably safely say GTA 6 has been exclusively developed for these generations of machines. PS5, Xbox Series X, PC when it eventually comes out. So I think there is a difference in the way that they would have developed the game and being able to do different types of things. I'm not sure I agree. I think the leap between 5 and 6 might be bigger than we think. Maybe not in terms of if you're playing GTA 5 now on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, visually there will be an upgrade, but it might not be as massive as it used to be between, maybe PS3 and PS4. But I think some of the things that it's managing to do, especially, like draw distances, loading times, or probably no loading, all of that kind of stuff, I think will make quite a big impact on the way that the world works in 6. But that's, it's just my view. What do I know? All right, well, let's move this thing along and talk about, would you upgrade for GTA 6? Now, this is a interesting question we're going to have to talk about here, Dan. I got another terrible email from one of those marketing companies. This one was from the experts at Independent Advisor Broadband Deals. Now, they have said from their research that more than 2 in 5 gamers would upgrade their consoles for GTA 6. They have said that research reveals that the anticipation for GTA 6 has reached fever pitch, with more than 2 in 5 gamers indicating their willingness to upgrade their console just to experience the latest game in the series. That is followed by FIFA or FC24, where 42.5% said they would upgrade, and Call of Duty, which is, Black Ops 6 comes out later this year, says, again, 2 in 5, 41-ish percent. So the percentages are quite similar for those top 3 games. Everyone's saying GTA is the one. If I was going to upgrade, that would be the game I'd upgrade for. I guess this brings us on to the question of, we think there's going to be a PS5 Pro released possibly later this year in time for Christmas.
Yeah.
Are we in another situation where GTA 6, as we just talked about, is going to span, it's definitely going to span the mid-console upgrade between PS5 and PS5 Pro, whenever that happens.
Yeah.
And I can very easily see a world again where GTA 6 spans 2 console generations. So it will be GTA 6 on PS5, but then GTA 6 on PS6 with a new upgrade, and it will just carry on again.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know when PlayStation 6 or the new Xbox thing is going to materialize, but let's take this back to the first question then. Would you personally upgrade your, are you going to get a PS5 Pro or whatever that ends up being called, with the potential of GTA 6 running better, looking better, have different options on it? Is that something that interests you, or are you just going to stick with base level PS5?
I'm just thinking in my mind how I felt about the switch to PS4 Pro. And if my dates are correct, PS4 Pro came out in November 2016. And the answer at that time was no. I didn't feel the need to upgrade because it was an improvement, but not to the extent where, and I'd already finished GTA years before and didn't feel the need to go back for the improvement in online or just to see it all again. I think this might be slightly different because, like you say, there's rumors of PS5 Pro potentially being announced in September, potentially coming out this year. That would make sense. Like, you want to hit the peak holiday season, October, November, December. So like from a classic Black Friday buying period window, you would bring it out then. And then I guess the console would be available ahead of what we anticipate being GTA 6's release, let's say a year afterwards-ish.
Yeah.
You know, like Q3, Q4 in 2025. I'm losing track of what the years are. So, yeah, it's a slightly different situation, but still, it has to be built to run on the base PS5, not the Pro, right? Because still, Sony are not going to sell. I don't know what the penetration is going to be of like PS5 Pro ownership versus PS5 base unit ownership, but I would imagine, I don't know. I'd have to look at the stats for Pro versus PS4 Pro versus PS4, but I imagine like, I don't know, 20% or something. Like, not that great. It's like a bit of a deluxe thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think really they're going to be in a position to make you miss out too much by being on the base PS5.
No, and I don't think that's, I mean, really, when it got upgraded to PS4 Pro, like, there wasn't really many features that it's missing on because, like you say, it has to work on the system that most of the player base has got. And that is what's going to happen here. It's just whether that kind of extra level of, slight level of fidelity matters or anything like that. I think this time, like you say, will be slightly different because the game won't be out. So it's whether there is any marketing push towards hey, this is the game, but now these new level of consoles are out, the 0.5 versions. Actually, if you have a 0.5 version, this, and this will happen. More volumetric clouds or bigger draw distances, that kind of thing. Like, it's whether that becomes a marketing point of now both consoles are out before the game, whereas previously the game was out and then the consoles happened and they had to sort of go, okay, well, now it does this and now it does this. Doing it the other way around does pose a different question, because if people are telling me that things will be faster and might look better, or, there's more NPCs in the world or whatever, that is more of a cause for me pre-release to go, well, maybe I do need a new console then.
Yeah, and as you were speaking, I was digging into actually what the penetration of PS4 Pro was versus PS4 units. Very crudely, as of about 2020, Sony had sold 14.3 million PS4 Pros out of a user base of about 100 million, 110 million. So it's like just over 10 to 15%. It's, if history was to repeat, it's just too small to target. You're eliminating 80% of your potential customers if you made a clearly better version versus a less good version. So I think everything you just said holds. It's unlikely they're going to really make a step up. Now, I do think, like you said right at the top, when it comes to PS6, which might, again, pick how far away it is, right?
2028.
2028. So that's 3 years. Yeah, maybe. That's right. That's about the gap between PS4 Pro and PS5. There was about 3.5 years between the two, which is actually longer than I remembered. I thought it was only 2 years. But I guess it was because rumors had already begun about PS5, so it felt like it was coming sooner than it actually did. So yeah, I agree. I think that PS6 mid-cycle update of GTA 6 is going to be an absolute slapper, which will be based on probably the bones of the PC version that we're going to get in 2026.
26, 27, maybe,
26, 27. So, wow, this is like already wishing our life away for versions of a game that doesn't exist. But that's, if history were to repeat, that's where we'd land. And the PC version, when it hits, will be a good proxy for what the PS6 version will be.
Yeah.
But that was a big leap up. The PC version of GTA 5, big leap up, as was the PS5 version of GTA 5. So, that's the point I would be looking to upgrade. I would happily play Core. Let's just see, of course. But I think I'll be happy to play it on my base PS5.
And then let's quickly touch on this before we go then, Dan, and is the industry avoiding GTA 6? Now, this comes from a report from the Metro, which is a UK newspaper / online news site, who are actually also quoting an interview from Variety's Strictly Business podcast, who have had Matt Booty on, who's Xbox president of gaming content. He was asked if the lack of release dates from their most recent Xbox showcase was due to GTA 6, which obviously we expect to launch sometime in 2025. And Booty said, I think many across the industry are of course going to plan around GTA 6. We are all looking forward to that game, which should be amazing. Certainly everybody in the industry wants to make sure that we don't land in the shadow of someone else's big release. We just need to keep options open. Which leads me to the question, obviously all of that stuff makes a lot of sense. They don't want to be falling over other people's release dates. And even internally, they discussed in that interview, they don't want to be, Xbox specifically doesn't want to be falling over itself because they've got so many studios and releases now planned for things in 2025, sorry. But does this mean, despite the release date stuff, that 2025 is going to be one of those years that's like a gaming blockbuster year? Xbox themselves have got Perfect Dark Reboot, Doom the Dark Ages was in that showcase, Fable, all of those have a vague 2025 release date or nothing else. Other titles coming in 2025 or expected to come in 2025 is Sid Meier's Civilization 7, Death Stranding 2, we mentioned Doom, Fable, Metroid Prime 4, Monster Hunter Wilds, Pokemon Legends Z to A, Slay the Spire 2, Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra, Judas, South of Midnight. There's a lot of titles in there which could be massive and could signify as 2025, as well as GTA 6, potentially a PS5 Pro and a new Nintendo console. 2025 could be one of those landmark years in gaming that is like, hey, remember, come a few years, we'll be like, do you remember 2025 when all those good releases came out? Like we do when we look back now at, I can't remember some of the years, but there was a few years that had pretty incredible.
Yeah,
releases.
and we just had one. 2023 was argued by many as like the best year ever for gaming, and there's other years that would say, maybe it was, probably PS2 eras where you would say that was true. The thesis of is 2025 going to be a golden year for gaming? Like the signs point to yes, right? Like you're right. Like, potentially new upgrade on PS5 or just the end of the year before. New Nintendo console is always massive. All of those games you mentioned, brilliant. Would any of them want to launch alongside GTA 6 or put themselves in the crosshairs? Would you, as a high-ranking Imperial officer, choose to stand in front of Darth Vader? No. It's risky. You never know what's going to happen. You're probably going to get killed. So, I just don't think everyone will be looking to see when GTA 6 plants down its flag. And it's a brave game that would go out day by day alongside it, even like a non-competing game. Now, once upon a time, there might have been a rationale in that where when people used to buy games from a physical shop, it might be a thing of, people go in to buy GTA 6 and were attracted by the release of something else that was, that is non-competitive. But in a world of digital storefronts, it just doesn't feel like that. I think it's very much you're spending a set of dollars that week, and it's going to be on GTA 6.
Yeah,
it's just going to suck all the money and time out of the market. So 2 weeks either side, I think people will be doing their best to steer clear. Surely, right? They can't see any other outcome.
No, and that will almost certainly happen. And we've seen it happen before where even if people start to announce release dates, once Rockstar released the GTA 6 release date, some of those release dates get moved either a little bit earlier or a little bit later just to avoid that situation of having to go up against them. So I think things will definitely be pushed around in 2025. We might see a window opening up. Like, I don't think any of these studios know what Rockstar are planning, and they're certainly probably not going to tell anyone before they tell the world. But you might start to see like a 4 to 5 week window where everyone is saying, we're not going to release anything in this period, which will be the expectation of when they think 6 might come out. We might start to get a sense of where the industry is thinking, Rockstar are thinking, once we get a bit further into 2025, which might be interesting. But no one's going up against that title. Everyone's going to move their things around. I mean, they're already doing it. Like in that Xbox conference, almost everything just said 2025. Whereas you would think normally they'd be able to say October, November, or like Q3, Q4. Yeah. They just don't want to right now for all the reasons we've talked about. Like, it's really understandable they don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think part of that would be interesting to look at, say, the Easter window, which has become increasingly big. That's kind of when your Elden Rings, and traditionally you're almost but not quite stellar bets. But I think now it's actually one of the biggest windows, Easter. You get a lot of the games that go on to be your GOTYs launched in that window. I expect that to be active because, we anticipate GTA to be, I don't know, October, right? That's just me putting a date out the air. And again, that might leave a window for late August, September, which has also developed a bit of a thing. Games tend not to launch. A few launch in November, but it almost feels like then you're missing, in danger of missing Black Friday. You've crested, by December, everything is out basically, isn't it? That seems to be the window. So I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. And I guess another part of the date thing might be me overthinking it. If any of these games were to also launch on the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called, maybe there's a reluctance to kind of start pinning dates down because it might reveal more than it, indirectly reveal when Nintendo are thinking about their console. But that's so much is unknown about that. That's just purely speculative.
Right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of GTA 6 O'Clock. One final little bit of information. Thank you for sticking to the end. You get a little treat. Well, actually, you get a bit of disappointment because what we're going to do is take a little break, a little holiday break. Me and Dan are both going to be in and out of the country over the next few weeks. Plus, I am going to go and hang out with somebody in LA. More news on that in a few weeks. But we will be back sometime around August 8th. Obviously, that is the date of the investor call. There could be some stuff around that. But we might do one or two things on Twitter. So keep in touch with us on social at GTA O'Clock. Get in touch via email at gtavioclock@gmail.com. Leave your comments below. And almost inevitably, what is going to happen is that we're going to have a little break, which means Rockstar are going to release some screenshots. So in a way, we are helping all of you listeners by having a week or two off.
Of course we are. And it would prove Rockstar are listening and are releasing things because they hate us and don't want us to go away and do various things. So, but I would welcome it. And I'm also thinking, actually, if the investor call is August the 8th, we might almost be primed to do hopefully an exciting, reaction pod, maybe even on the August the 9th. But let's wait and see, because if they say literally nothing, maybe it won't be worth it. But
yeah,
you never know.
When the screenshots come out on the 6th,
you never know.
We'll be there. So thank you all for listening. As I said, get in touch on social, put your comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't. Rate us 5 stars or as many stars as you want on those
6
podcast apps. 6 stars, please. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another episode of GTA 6 O'Clock.